You're listening to the Heroed Out podcast. To find out how to hear the latest episode or to connect with us, please visit heroedout.com. Consumer discretion is advised.
He's got the nice chair I see over there.
Yeah, that's his. That thing's fucking nice. It reclines. Actually, has like a reclining thing where the feet kick out and everything.
Oh, okay, that's big money right there.
Yeah, no, he's fucking definitely way richer than me. If I had his money, I'd throw mine away.
Yours almost looks like a dinner table chair.
Mind your fucking business. Exactly what it is.
Don't matter.
I've sensed a little judgment there.
For who?
I
Us?
said we were loaded. I don't know if that was like loaded,
It's
loaded, ready to go,
it was
or
a
like
loaded statement.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what it was.
mildly offensive. But I like mildly offensive.
He didn't use pronouns, so we're okay.
Yeah, he did say he. I did hear. I heard the.
Wait, he might. Yeah, that's gonna lose some of that demographic. I guess.
That's all right. Fuck him. Right in the pussy.
Back pussy.
Anyway, so for anyone listening, to kind of piggyback off the intro, we got the dudes from the Heroed Out podcast. We got Kyle, we got Nick, or whatever you want to call him. What's going on, guys? How are you?
Good. How you doing, brother?
Good. So we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of different things here, but before we dive too far into it, just let you guys introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, where you're from, all that shit. We'll start with Kyle, and then we'll go to Nick.
You're about to get started.
Fuck you. That's what happens.
So, brief synopsis. From Central Florida and spent 15 years in law enforcement. Various roles. It included SWAT, training, administration. I know you're going to make some memes about me. It's cool. I'll make memes about me too. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. I mean, like you, been through shit and seen shit, and here we are. Now we're doing the podcast thing. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm Nick. I've spent about 17 years of public service. A little less than 6 of those at the fire department, and then another dozen or 10 years or so was at law enforcement. Same thing, worked my way up through the ranks, different roles, but most of mine were specialized units, investigations, CID, child exploitation, narcotics, supervisor of our child exploitation unit. Just you name it, we've been there, been seeing it, So after Kyle and I both left law enforcement, I told him one day, I was like, hey, man, I always thought about starting a podcast just to talk about the shit that you can't say when you're at work, because if you do, you end up getting fired, or you get disciplined, or, you get blackballed from getting any assignment or whatnot. So that's kind of how we ended up where we are now. And we've actually had tremendous success. And I know Kyle's gave, such great praise and laurels to you for all the help that you provided him. And I think just recently we hit over 1 million views on our YouTube channel. And I think,
Wow.
a lot of that was, not just from, all the effort Kyle puts in, but for, you reaching out and kind of, helping him along the way. But thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. That's awesome for you guys. You're right. By being in law enforcement, you are definitely silenced a lot about your opinions on things. And I think that kind of leads to things we'll talk about in a little bit. You can't get off your chest what you want. And the way you end up doing it is usually in not good ways. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this earlier today. I think it was today or yesterday. Like, when you have no master, when you're a free elf, when, someone gives you that sock and you're a free elf, it's so much more relaxing. And I still work for an agency, but by not being in the gun belt, I feel so much more free and just relaxed to live life like a human.
Because you are, for one. And yeah, there are definitely strangleholds and things like that come along with being there and voicing that. And I think that's part of the frustration, especially with seeing so many. You see evil, right? You see pure evil on a daily basis, and you can't even talk about it really and have an outlet or express your opinion. I think it's obviously detrimental.
No, I think the worst part of it is if you have an issue with something's bothering you, you can't trust the people you trust with your life to talk about your feelings. How degrading is that then when you have something that bothers you? Whether it's a pediatric death or a traffic homicide or a murder, or even just a regular call for service. Like, man, that was kind of fucked up. You can't tell somebody, hey, that's bothering you without feeling, ostracized, ridiculed, blackballed. People are going to fucking make fun of you. They're going to turn you into for having, for being a person. I think that's what's taken away from a lot of first responders, the fact that these are people just doing a job. And I think that's part of society's problem. And I'm not a big proponent of, and the more you get to know me, the more you realize that I'm not a huge fan of, we're all heroes. Like you do these amazing things. It's your fucking job, dude. You know what I mean? You know who's a hero? The guy who does what I do, but doesn't get paid for it. The guy who engages the armed robber, who's a general citizen. The person who sees somebody getting carjacked and wrestles that guy at a grandma's car. To
like
me,
the
that's
guy
a hero.
in the Panhandle, the Chick-fil-A employee.
Right, 100%. That's what I mean, man. Like
He's
that
gonna end up
fucking
being
guy.
a cop. Watch. God damn it.
You know what I mean? Like that guy did, you know what I mean? That's heroic. That's somebody, anybody else, that's what you're trained to do. They equip you to do it. You're mentally and emotionally prepared to do it. But we don't prepare ourselves to deal with the actual job and dealing with the calls, which is terrible. I think that's where the biggest shortfall of law enforcement currently.
Right. And I think the problem is that the culture that is bred to law enforcement from the beginning, from the academy, is toxic.
Right. No, it is. My dick is bigger than yours, you know?
Absolutely. And the moment you say something out of line, and by out of line, I literally mean like saying, hey, that's fucked up, you're ostracized from day one.
Oh, yeah.
From day one. And how many times, I mean, you guys, I think, had more, I know you did, you guys had more years on than I did, and especially more supervisory roles, but, you know, that culture of first day on the job, don't talk to anybody, you're the new guy, fucking stand at attention at the door, you know, stand with your face away from everybody in briefing, like shit like that. Whereas, I will say, I've had one or two field training officers who said, fuck that system, sit down, you're with us, you got my back as much as I got yours. But the culture itself does not lend for that kind of behavior. So no. What are we taught in the very beginning? Like, all right, so it really is just me out there.
Yes. So it's weird. I've never thought about this until you just said this. But it's very weird that, you know, there's a big push for humanize the badge, and what we both experience, or all of us, is internally they dehumanize it, like off the get-go.
No, and I think that's what they want you to do. You know, you can't cry if you're sad. Like if you go somewhere, if you've ever been to a death of someone, and I'm talking somebody in the family's hurting, and you are sympathizing or empathizing with them, and you show emotion, so you feel bad, so you want to hug the person, hey, I'm so sorry you lost your daughter, your son, your wife, your husband. Even if she's 90 years old, man, that's somebody who'd been with her whole entire life. It's amazing to me. I think the worst part about it, we're our own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. We will be the first person to pick on somebody or to ostracize them. And I've never been a mentality of, you know, sit back, shut up, and do as you're told. You know, we touched on this in a previous episode that we put out. There's a time and a place for your opinion, but it's incumbent on the people that have been there a couple years to introduce that guy, to bring him into the conversation, because that guy could be saving your life that night. It could be that day that individual is going to be the one that literally is the difference between you going home to your wife and kids, or, you know, or going to the fucking morgue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I had a guest on last year at some point, and he was talking about, he's a captain up in New Jersey, and he was talking about leaning on people who have experiences outside of the job, right? Like, I don't know what you guys did before you went 10-8, but everybody has some kind of experience. Somebody may have been a plumber, someone may have been a student, someone may have had, you know, sexual crimes against them as a juvenile, whatever, you know. And then if you don't really get to know your people, when shit comes up like that, like let's say we had this issue when I was with my old agency. It was New Year's Eve, someone got stabbed at a nightclub. Someone went crazy, got stabbed, and she was a concert pianist, severed the tendons in her fingers, right?
Ooh, that's not good.
And yeah, could never play piano again. Now let's just imagine, this didn't happen, but let's just imagine, right? She is in the jurisdiction. She calls maybe after she's done with surgery, find out she can't play piano again. And now she's suicidal. Everything she's ever put her life into, she can't do anymore. Well, what if you have somebody on your squad with some similar experience, right? If you don't get to know your people, you'll never have someone that can break bread with that person and maybe save the whole situation. And that's where getting to know your people is so important.
No, it truly is. So I was, it's funny you say that. So I was a road supervisor, and we had a call for a suicidal subject. And this was a younger person. They were under 18. And one of the guys training at the time was a prior school teacher, and I knew that his expertise in teaching in school was dealing with mentally and the EMD, emotional and mentally disturbed students. So I'm like, what fucking better person? He's an FTO as a trainee. I said, boss, you're hanging with me. Like, this is what you did for years. You went and got a college degree. Just because I'm I'm the supervisor on scene doesn't mean I know more than you. I have to lend some credence to your experience. And thankfully, everything was resolved safely. And at the end of the day, this kid went, was able to be taken into custody and got the help he needed. But if it wasn't for that communication with a trainee, I think he was first phase training like that. He was very, very new, but at the same time, I put that faith in his abilities.
From my experience, that's not very common. And, Charlie, what you kind of alluded to, at least when I came through, like as a trainee, or even saw trainees after I came through, was like, there was that almost hazing point, right? Where it's like, hey, you can't sit at our table. You're in training.
Yeah, fuck you, dude.
Like, dude, but we saw that so many times. Like, they would be like, you go sit out in the damn car in the parking lot and eat there while we sit in Perkins at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, no. See,
that's
fucked up.
My very first trainer said to me, she's like, I don't eat with trainees. And I was like, okay, and I've worked several jobs up to that point, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
What did I do? Damn it, fuck.
Right. Literally, just because I'm the new guy, fuck me.
Right.
But eventually, because who I am, I'm personable, I'm friendly, whatever. She broke down that wall. And guess what? We became close. Like we were cool, after that. And to the point, like, that was my mentality. I was told throughout training, like, I was too friendly with people. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, that's a thing? Like,
that's an insecurity issue on their part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was like, so, I never understood that. And even when I went from one agency to the second agency, and I said this earlier in a previous episode this season, but I said, like, when I made my switch from my one agency, middle-sized city, to a small suburban, light crime area, I literally felt like LeBron going to Miami. Like, oh man, this is gonna be great. They're all gonna welcome me with open arms, city cop, whatever. And they were dicks. And I was like, no, like hey,
you were 10-8 on the road or different position?
No, I was I was going on the road, but I was in training. But I would have at least thought they'd be like, hey,
though, right?
What's that?
A sworn spot?
It was sworn, yeah.
Okay.
And I was expecting them to lean on my previous experience, right? 6 years on the road, a couple specialized units, seen some shit. I figured they would have been like, listen, I know this is a little bit different, a slower pace than you're used to. Here's how we do it here. And they would have just kind of like, not went through the motions, but were a little nicer.
Not kid gloves with you.
Right, like, right. And instead they treated me like a day one. And I was so pissed at that. I was like, man, that's an insult.
And touching back on what you talked about with your first trainer, how he would tell you to eat with you, fuck her for even bringing that up. Like, that is so like, how would you do that to a fucking human? Let's just take the fact out that you are in this job, you are in law enforcement. If you were a fucking plumber and that happened, you'd be picking up your fucking teeth. You know what I mean? Like that. Like, you don't talk to people like, dude, I tell people this all the fucking time. And I used to work for Daytona Beach Fire, and there was a lieutenant there that I didn't get along with. I'd only been there a couple weeks, and he was. What's up?
You can name him.
Oh, Jason Hill. He's a fucking prick. So him and I were having it out one day, and I fucking looked at him straight across the desk, bigger and shit. I said, listen, man, I was a grown-ass man before I was a fireman. I'll beat your fucking ass right in this office. You've been here 10 years. I've been here 10 fucking weeks. Who has more to lose? Don't treat me like I'm a piece of shit just because you just met me. That ain't gonna fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's fucking, that ain't right.
Me, buddy.
No, you better fucking straighten your ass out.
Yeah. I don't care, what rank you are or whatever, but yeah, in those public service jobs, you are, restrained by that master, so to speak, and probably more so, obviously, sworn, because there's more, I think, attention brought to it. Like, okay, cool. Hey, secretary at X, Y, and Z police department, like, that doesn't really make sense.
But here's the thing, and I get into this discussion a lot, and I don't mean to cut you off, but here's the thing, right? If you are my boss, if you're my sergeant, you're my lieutenant, or up, right? I'm going to respect you just sheerly on your position, right? That's not going to undermine your position, right?
No, I can respect the rank, but I don't have to respect the person in the rank.
Exactly. And I feel like too many people marry the two.
No, fuck that guy.
Right,
They're
and
not
I can't stand
there-
that.
There is not necessarily a correlation.
No, and like here's the deal. Look, I'm the new guy. I get out, gas the truck. I'm the new guy. I do the dishes at the fire department. You're the new guy. You run the reports to records. All right, cool. That's the bitch work nobody else wants to do. I get
But
it.
to be treated like shit.
But yeah, treated like I'm not fucking
Right,
human or
right.
like I'm not part of the. When you get your ass beat tonight, guess who you want? To anybody. You would pray for anybody to be there. Literally any fucking human being with a gun. You don't give a fuck who it is that's going to help you. You're going to treat me like shit 5 minutes before? That don't fly for me, man. That mindset has got to go in law enforcement. You have
Yeah.
to start treating people with some respect.
And that's your day one. So
Right.
now start compounding that treatment, throughout. And what happens then? You become the FTO, and either you're going to bring that down on your new trainee, or you're going to be like, all right, I'm not going to treat my trainee like that. But then you're going to get ostracized by other FTOs, be like, hey, why are you being so soft on the trainees?
that creates the culture, right? That creates the environment that it's okay, and we're repeating the same shit over and over again, and then you hear the same thing like, why are we doing things this way? Because we've always done it this way. Like that is the biggest cop-out excuse for everything.
By no means am I condoning that just because you walk in the door, you should have a voice. I'm not
Sure.
saying that.
Right.
So I think I may have said this before, and if not, I apologize. So in one of our shows we were talking about, I'll keep it real brief. I had a brand new first day, she gets assigned to my shift. And we're going over something in policy, and she interrupts the briefing to tell me I am wrong. I'm reading policy wrong, and that's not what statute says. So I abruptly tell her, you can wait in the parking lot. When briefing's done, I'll come get you. Until then, you're going to be out of service until I come get you. So I left her out there for about an hour and a half. Briefing had been done for about an hour. I said, let's make this crystal fucking clear. Unless it's yes, sir, no, sir, or gun, I don't want to hear a fucking word out of you. That was the most rude and disrespectful thing you could have done. You've really painted yourself in a light where you're showing no respect, not only for the rest of the people here, but me, and as if I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I want you to
don't-
understand that.
That's not. I don't think that that's. And some people would look at that and think that that's a, that was a personal type of thing. Like, hey, you disrespected me. No. Hold on. Time out.
You disrespected everybody.
And not only that, you took away that, there is morale that you have with your other people.
Oh, for sure.
And if they interrupt that, that's kind of like breaking the signal, And
Yeah.
that is how toxicity is born and bred.
But the nice part
Right.
about it was once we had that very heart-to-heart, it was over. Hey, look, we're done. Go 10-8. If you need something, call me. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I just want you to know where the line is. You crossed it. We're good. You know what I mean?
Let's circle back here.
Yeah, and from then on, we were great. She became a great deputy. She's doing great things. I just think she needed that real quick snap. But
Right,
it wasn't,
exactly. And that's,
it wasn't.
I
a
feel like that's
long
an
term.
age thing. That's a generational thing.
It was. She was very
Where I-
young. Very. I don't
Yeah.
think she might have been 21, 22.
Right. So I feel like people listening, I know I have a lot of younger officers or aspiring officers that listen to this show, and they go, so I want to kind of clarify. I'm all about respecting people as person, right? But you also have to respect the institution as well. And by the institution, seniority, there's a reason that people are senior. So it's definitely a fine line, and I think that's where people can get confused when you're talking about, like, listen, we respect you as people. I'm not gonna. It kind of goes with that whole praise in public, discipline in private kind of thing. Like you sent her to the side, and you were like, listen, we'll talk about it in a minute, and then you handled it, as opposed to
In
laying
front of the
in.
whole,
Exactly, because
squad.
then nobody's going to look at that person
No.
with any sort of dignity or respect again. Like 5 years down the road, that's still going to be that deputy
Yeah,
that
that
spoke up in
becomes
briefing.
your reputation. That becomes
Exactly.
your
No,
identity.
and it was important for me to not have that. Like I said, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody is human, and I understand that. I'm a very open and friendly person. People feel like we can do this, but the one time I got in my guy's ass from the day I started, when I got promoted, when we're at briefing, this is business. This is a fucking meet. We can be friends, but we don't have to be.
Right.
You understand? Like, we can be friends, but we don't have to be right now. We're fucking talking business. This is what the captain wants done. This is the problems in the district. Here's the fucking crime trends we're seeing. Here's the issues we need to address. Get to work. The rest of your 11 hours and 45 minutes, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Right now is my time. You're going to pay attention to me.
And
That's it.
what you said earlier, when you liked it to like a business atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have their board meetings, they have their staff meetings, whatever, and that is business. And nobody talks except for the manager on the floor.
Right.
But then the moment you break and you go back to your cubicle or whatever it might be, whatever the setup is, it's business as normal. Like we'll talk, blah blah blah. And that's so important to. I really like the way you kind of context that and said, like, you know, if you're going to be the new guy in the office building, we're not gonna treat you like shit. Same thing, but business has to be handled. Like, at the end of the day, law enforcement is the mission, right? So, you know, we're gonna handle that first. And if you're the new guy, assume you don't know anything and talk to whoever your immediate superior is, whether it's a trainer or whatever, and get the lay of the land, and then go from there. So, like, in that scenario that you were talking about, in that situation, the appropriate response would have been, like, jotted down the notebook and pulled you aside afterward, like, hey, I thought the policy said this.
Yeah.
And then it would have been a teaching moment in a different way and probably a more positive
It was definitely approached in more of, no, that's not right. This is what policy says. And I'm like,
A little bit stronger than passive aggressive.
yeah, time the fuck
Yeah.
out, because
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah.
you read one policy, but I can give you a dozen that conflict with the other. But if you look up case law and you look up state statute and you look up all this other information that shows you why we're going to do it this way.
A lot of that, I think, Nick, what you just explained was tact and how that was brought up to you. Because there could be some clarifying questions, obviously, like, hey, this is how I interpret this way. Like, even in front of the group, perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But for it to be more than passive aggressive and kind of like a shot in the nose, yeah, you're going to feel some repercussions.
Yeah, and I like in it. Listen, man, I talk about it all the time with my wife. Sometimes there needs to be some clarity with things that are going on with my wife.
Sure.
Like, I may think things are one way. I need to clarify. Like, it's different. Say, what happened? There's a, hey baby, what happened? The tone, the inflection, the how you say it, everything about
sure.
it is a different. It's the exact same sentence, just in a different manner.
That's just like
And
when
that,
you say
you know.
to someone sorry and then you also say I'm sorry. Like, just that slight deviation
Yep.
literally means the same thing, but it the way you convey it is read a totally different way.
Or timing. You know, you write somebody $500 worth of tickets and you say, have a good day.
Yeah.
0% chance that's happening.
Right.
You know, it's,
Oh man.
Oh, speaking of that, I can tell you. Side note, was where my brain goes. The only time I've ever wrote somebody, like, stacked them with tickets, it was me and you. Remember,
you
we
didn't
were
write me fucking tickets, bitch.
No, I would have though. Fuck you. So we're going down. Me and Kyle were going down Elkham Boulevard in Deltona, and this lady blew a stop sign at Montecito and almost fucking T-boned
She
you.
had a big mouth to blow that stop sign.
Yeah, so she didn't. So she almost fucking T-bones Kyle, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
we
Fuck,
get there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we get there. She no seatbelt, husband no seatbelt. She has 5 or 6 kids, none of them no seatbelt. The
insecure,
youngest
yeah.
is like 6 months in a baby carrier in the cargo area. That's the only time I ever stacked somebody. I think she had like over $1,000 worth of tickets, but
She
she
shouldn't
almost
have been driving to begin with.
yeah, no, she definitely shouldn't have. But I don't know where that came
Whenever
from.
whenever I see kids involved, like kids walking around on the back seat, no safety seat or anything like that. That's when I get out the big pad and we start writing some tickets. But
Yeah, it used to be press hard 5 copies, and it went to 3 copies, and it went to digital shit. My printer doesn't work.
I keep waiting to get pulled over and get a ticket from one of those people I can pay on the side of the road. I'm almost looking forward to that.
oh man,
Go to Georgia,
Hey,
dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I fucking went through the other day. Dude, they must have no crime other than traffic, because everywhere I go,
in Georgia,
yeah.
up and
Or-
down 95, man.
Hold
Yep.
on. And Virginia, that's a thing, right?
I don't
With
go
the
that far.
memes? Virginia, yeah. No, don't speed in Virginia.
Too far north.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I was in Virginia up in June, and there were actually I got a patch from a Virginia State Trooper, and luckily I had no issues with him. He was cool, but in the area where I was, no issues. But yes, I've heard the same thing about Virginia State Troopers. Don't fuck around.
yeah.
They'll write their
Georgia,
mama.
Virginia, stay clear of those. As far
And
as
also
that goes.
for Georgia, like speeding is a criminal offense in Georgia, which
Right.
is crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've actually seen some Florida cops arrest people for excessive speed, even though it's only a mandatory court appearance, and actually took them to jail. Yeah. Luckily,
so
I
I
wasn't
had this
their
one-
fucking supervisor, so
I had one. He was coming down a bridge going, shit, I can't remember. It was like 45 plus. Like he
a
was
lot
going,
and a little.
yeah. So I stopped him, and that's what I thought too. And I didn't cuff him, but I got him out of the car, whatever.
Yeah.
And I reread the statute. I was like, oh, never mind.
No,
I was
I've
like,
seen them booked, and we're like, shit, we need to go unarrest this guy. And not me.
Can you articulate reckless at that point?
Well, they didn't, and they put the speeding statute in there. And like when I caught it as an oncoming supervisor, I was like, "Hey, we need to go unarrest this guy." He'd already been out of jail. I'm like, shit. Yeah, that's not good.
You better call the state
Right, we
attorney
good?
and drop those charges, man.
Like yesterday. Yeah, hey, go buy that damn dude a fucking McDonald's burger. Give him $20 and have him sign a piece
Man.
of paper.
This has got to be off the record, but one time we
It's
had a
not.
CI. We had a guy. Oh yeah, you're not. But
We're recording.
yeah, it's all right. See, I can go through and I can delete my shit. That's why I always put it off the record before I say shit.
Nothing's off the record here, dude.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
You
Well,
wanna see my
anyway,
dick?
nah, not yet, not yet.
All right.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how this Tito's goes.
He didn't say no.
I didn't say no.
That's my love life. No, every girl who told me no to me just meant not right now, or she's not ready to say yes yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No means maybe.
Blink with both eyes. But anyway, I'll tell you that story a different day, though.
Well, let's
But
use
no.
fake names and tell the same story.
You know what? Time has passed, right? I don't even work there anymore.
Statute
Anyway,
of
long story
limitations
short,
is up.
Fuck those people.
yeah. Okay, so I threw out a CI cell phone by accident,
Nice.
and I had to end up buying him a new cell phone.
Accident.
Yeah. And the dude fucking stood me up. I was like, fuck that, it's my new cell phone, man. Like,
Yeah.
and then he didn't work for us, so I don't know if we ended
That
up.
ain't your bad. You bought it. It's not like you
Yeah,
stole it
I
from
tried to
him.
make good, man. I tried.
You acted in good faith. I wouldn't be
So,
ashamed of that story at all.
I used to, where we used to arrest like, not intentionally, but like, say we arrested somebody who was homeless for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Like, disorderly
Yeah,
intox
right.
or whatever it was, you know what I mean? I was not hauling the bum bag full of fucking stinky shit to evidence, right? So there was a strip mall in the city that we worked in, and I would throw it in the dumpster, and I would tell them, hey, look, trash day's on Wednesday. You better come back or that shit's fucking gone. I'm not picking your fucking disgusting
Man.
bag. And then I'll tell you what, though, that was, a dozen years ago. But looking at it now, I'm like, dude, that's like everything this guy owned. You know what I mean? But it's soaked in piss. So, I mean, it's kind of like a win-win.
for both of you.
Right,
for
he gets new
everybody.
stuff eventually, man. It's okay. Or new to him.
He'll
at
get
least.
it from jail.
Yeah, well,
They ain't gonna make
He'll
him
find
walk out
somebody. He'll
naked.
find some unlocked fucking car to reacquire some property from.
Yeah,
Exactly.
probably
It's going to
in
be
the
an
jail
upgrade
parking
anyway.
Yeah. That's
Probably
the
right
shit.
in the damn parking lot.
Yeah, that's the shit that goes on that people don't know about. That's the stuff I feel like instead of watching cops where like they chase people, you should see like the real life stuff where people are like, oh my God, this guy pissed in my car. In the next 45 minutes, you're sweating your ass off in the middle of summer, fucking mopping up a puddle of bum
Covered.
piss.
You're wearing your damn, like, polyester uniform before the fucking overvest, right? Like, literally
Yeah.
the poly.
Under everything, fucking
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's funny is you forget about more shit than you remember. At least I do. And yeah, that just brought up a story. I was like, damn, when I was a trainee, I think second or third phase, and the jail was in my zone, and there was some fucking bum that got arrested from somewhere else, and then obviously got brought there, and they ROR'd him in the morning, but he was just didn't want to leave and started pissing all over the cars in the parking lot. I swear to God, look it up. Yeah. He started pissing all over the cars in the parking lot, and the jail's like, we need to trespass him. We fucking arrested that guy for trespassing after warning at the fucking jail and brought him back in from the front parking lot to the Sally Port. I swear to fucking God. I'll find the report. It's fucking great.
That's amazing.
It's like, that's how it started for me. I was like, all right, well, I don't know how that works legally.
That's going to
but
set the
here we
tone.
are.
Yeah, that was, that could have been attributed to my agency as well.
That's
Not the
exactly
jail
where it
part.
came from.
Oh, I have a
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
I have
sure it was.
100%
Listen,
certainty he came
listen.
from fucking Beachside. I have no doubt.
Yeah. East of the tracks, it was definitely true.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
What's
when
the fucking Beachside station? What's the street that it's on?
Harvey.
Harvey. Yeah, they come from Harvey. Yeah, they come from Harvey. You know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about.
That's so sad, but funny.
Yeah. Man, I don't miss that at all.
No.
But everything we were just talking about, right, the toxic realm that we're brought up in kind of brings so much hell onto us as we progress throughout our career because of that, because it's not an open and free and safe environment to talk about, we start turning to other realms of coping. And, I mean, I'd like to say most cops, and I'll say like 98% of cops will choose.
God, no, die. I'm sorry, I'm not talking to you, cops.
You said no to a Mick Ultra and you said you'd die? Really?
I don't know. For some reason, it gives me
You
really
want a
bad.
White Claw?
What's that?
You want a White Claw?
No, I'm good. I got some more of my Land Shark. Thanks. Plug for St. Louis's finest right here.
That's right. Anyway, I was going to say something, but
Unhealthy
hold
habits.
off on it. Yeah.
Since we're talking about them.
Exactly. So you go to things, and I'd like to say that 98% of cops will choose legal options, but even those legal options are not good, right? We'll start going to alcohol, which is not bad in short bursts, but obviously some of us get too excessive with it. Women, gambling, so on and so forth, even to something so minute as
Very
like
arousing.
shopping addiction. Like shopping addiction is a really big thing now with like Amazon one click to buy, and people are buying so much shit and they're not managing their money properly. And then before you know it, like whatever that coping mechanism you chose, which was legal, is fucking up your life.
Well, just because
You only said
just
women
because
once, by the way. Dude.
Yeah, women have used that multiple times in there.
Yeah.
Beer, women, drugs, women, shopping, women. So just because it's been deemed legal or illegal by the government doesn't mean it can be healthy, because anything could be an excess, whether it's eating, even exercising. You can exercise in excess. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that could be bad for you. But I mean, alcohol in general is one of the most abused substances, obviously, on the planet, let alone this country. But in law enforcement, we talk about this quite frequently. Alcoholism, substance abuse, obesity, life expectancy after retirement, divorce, every one of these parameters that would lead to an unhealthy lifestyle is prevalent in not just first responders, but even more so law enforcement. And I don't think people quite understand that there is a stress that comes along with that, this job, this environment, this culture that takes its toll on people and how they deal with that. And I've always been very, very fortunate that I've been able to separate those stressors, where I've seen a lot of people that I know. A very, very good friend of mine. I talk to him all the time. We went to a call together, maybe a year and a half ago, and it still weighs on him very heavy. And to me, it doesn't. And I don't know that his role or involvement was much different than mine, but for some reason to him, it was a very, very, it was a fork in the road moment for him. You know what I mean? For him, it led to, obviously led to excessive drinking, just doing things that were bad for his health, bad for him emotionally, financially, just his family. Yeah. And thankfully, he's doing much, much better now. He's doing really, really well, and I'm very proud of him. But it's just amazing how people discredit something like that, how dismissive somebody can be of, oh, it was just this or it was just that.
Oh, absolutely. But also, you said that you and him had the same role, but what if someone had like a lesser role that could still weigh on them in a different way, and that doesn't make their traumatic version of that experience any more invalid or more valid? Like
exactly.
Whatever is real to them is real to them.
No, and that's why
it is relative.
No, it is. It is relative. And the one thing I always pounded into my when I was a sergeant, into my deputies, and when I was lieutenant, yes. And then when I was a lieutenant, into my sergeant, I said, do not confuse sympathy with empathy. Yeah. Do not overuse empathy. Sympathy is, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. Empathy is, I understand how you feel. And I always like to give they're like, well, why do you mean? What do you say that for? So let's say you go to somebody's house and their mom died. You're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I know how you feel. My mom just died. Oh, okay. Was your mom an alcoholic that used to bring around other men that used to beat you? Or maybe they used to sexually abuse? Right. You don't know their story. So using empathy, you have to be very, very careful with, unless you've walked in those shoes.
It's really easy to dismiss other people's trials or whatever.
It does. It becomes dismissive of them.
It does. It's easy to do that if you're looking at it through the lens of your own experiences.
Right.
So you could have, your kid falls and breaks their elbow or whatever, and you've never seen that, or like, oh my God, or the first time you dealt with it, you'd probably be off the wall. But like, if you go to the orthopedic surgeon, they're like, all right, next.
Yeah. It's run of the mill. So I think that's one thing that people, especially in first responders in all capacities, is they need to start really honing in their skills when it comes to empathy and sympathy, knowing the difference and being tactful with what you say, and not just to the public, but just to each other. Because if you were joking around about something and it's bothering me, the vast majority of people would joke around as well.
Right. Because
they don't want to feel as an outcast.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean? They don't want to feel as if they're the odd man out, where very few people, and I'm not braggadocious by any stretch, but are like me, where I don't give a fuck about nothing, about nobody, about anything, nobody's opinion of me. It's never bothered. And it's also taking some understanding and introspective to understand that a lot of society isn't like that. So I have to be very considerate of others, where other people are dismissive just because they're conceited. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah. And Kyle, we were talking about this before we pressed record earlier today about how dark humor, keeps us going. We're good with it, right? But your dark humor and my dark humor may be totally different. And what you joke
100%.
about, I'm going to joke around with it too, just because I want to fit in. But the situation may be really fucked up to me, but I want to blend in with you. Because
Right.
again, that camaraderie is going to keep me going more and more. But then we just compress what the issue is, or what's really bothering us, and that's not good either.
Yeah, so I kind of I chewed on that a little bit after we talked, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, all these different coping, stressing mechanisms, right? Like, to deal with them. Even if you just say blanket physical fitness, there's so many different types of physical fitness programs or things you could do. Yeah, JOZ, CJs,
Xbox and JO regularly.
Right. Yeah, there you go. I mean, but you could be into bodybuilding or Ironmans or completely different, and those two people don't understand each other.
No, and they're doing the same thing to help themselves.
Exactly. So the same thing for me, I think, with humor, like me especially, I'm going to be very candid about it. Innuendo and sexual innuendo, like that is fucking hilarious to me.
No, and I say this loosely. I tell Kyle all the time, like
Loosely.
I have a little like running log I have for my stand-up comedy that I'm never gonna do, but like things. But to me, like racism, rape, sexual, all these things are funny in humorous context, depending on where you are. So,
Time
like,
and place,
yeah, time and place. So I also go back to like, if you died and 4 cops came there, they're gonna laugh at your dick. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's just what happens. That's how you deal with that. So. And when I was in our child exploitation unit, we dealt primarily with child pornography, hands-on offenders, sexual offenders, online enticement.
What does a hands-on offender mean?
Hands-on offender means somebody who actually was a hands-on. They were touching, like Uncle Tommy touched me type of thing.
Yeah, but I didn't work there. I didn't do that job.
Yeah.
But you probably saw that even in that, there was people who obviously committed things and people who fantasized about things.
Right, and those were the difference. But we would joke about different videos, photos,
Right.
to cope with that. So, and not necessarily in a way to demean or diminish the victim itself.
It's the way you coped with that situation.
Right. So we saw a guy in the same slew of videos. Like this guy had like 20,000 videos and photos of CP, child pornography, right? So in all of this stuff, there was a video of a guy fucking a snake. Fucking hilarious. Like dick,
was the pitcher
dick
or the
in
catcher?
snake.
Oh,
Like
well,
dick
alright.
in snake.
I don't know how that happens.
Don't know either, but he worked at it. I mean, I don't think the snake was there willingly, but either way. So
I hope not.
no, so
Didn't
that
like the
was
motherfucker?
that was like our way of dealing with the other 19,999 shitty fucking photos and videos of, children, being exploited.
Yeah.
It was a way to focus that attention. Or we go to these houses and these places to be filthy, disgusting. So really good friend of mine, Dennis, super smart. He was one of our digital forensics techs, really great guy. Poor fucking guy. Whenever we'd have a very intricate system, you can't just unplug it and take it back. Like you have to do a dump and download there on scene, right? And
Might lose it.
And these people quite literally sit in squalor and filth and fucking jerk off all day long. And he was in there one time, and it was so bad in a couple houses. I have photos I'll send you.
Please don't.
He's throwing up at these houses, like he's throwing up. But and it's very funny to us that we laugh about him throwing up, but it is a deflection of how we're dealing with
Sure.
Was that
the
like
actual job.
performance anxiety throwing up, or what was he throwing up over?
Oh God, dude. You have never been in filth. Remember the house you guys had to knock down the wall to get the dead body out?
There's been a few.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yes.
That one specific, yeah.
That, but worse. Like so we were
Dude,
at a house.
I would, right now, knowing what I know, I would take my shit off and leave it right there in my car. Have a nice day. I'm done.
We went to a house one time, and it was so bad we had people come with decomp masks,
Yep.
decomposition
Scott
masks.
bags, yeah.
So
Yep,
we had
yep.
them use those to go into this house, and we knocked over a jar of fluid.
Nope.
Don't know what kind of fluid it was. I assume some sort of bodily fluid. Maybe he was catching his batches, but it fell down on the ground. It smashed open, and a dog was like licking it up.
I think I've
And it
seen
was-
this movie called Ted before.
Dude, it was terrible. It was fucking terrible. But
Okay,
anyway,
so-
getting back on topic, it's dealing with those stressors in
Right,
a very
and that's
unique
what I was
manner.
gonna
Yeah,
say.
I'm sorry,
Imagine
roundabout way
s-
to saying. I understand what you're saying.
No, that's perfectly fine. Little graphic, but I think that drives
We
home
haven't got
the
graphic.
point. I think that drives home the point, though. Like, you're telling me this story, and I'm like, how does someone cope with that healthy, right? Like, or,
Not
I can think of
healthy
a
ways. you
Yeah.
know?
exactly, and I can think of every single unhealthy way that you could cope with that. And because if you're someone in that situation, and you've been cultured to not talk to the buddy next to you about like that was fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna do something by yourself, and it's gonna eat at you. It's gonna fester at you, just like the shit that you just described.
No, it does. And not to jump back on the story, but we had 10 people in this unit. 9 people got along really, really, really well. We were able to joke and kid and make fun and really loose. And there was one individual who did a tremendous job, really, really went above and beyond, but she manifested it differently. It ate at her. She was on medication, had sleeping problems. I mean, it ended up being the demise of her career. I think the stressors ended up forcing her out. It was a performance related issue down the road, but I think it was a culmination of that job because she didn't have that outlet, and I don't know that she was a person who felt comfortable doing that. It's a shame because she did a really great job.
I'd rather have that outcome and they leave than the more permanent solution.
Oh, no, absolutely.
agree. I agree.
So we talk about this all the time. The shirt Kyle's wearing is for first responders, I'm sorry, not first responders, but military, was it Mission 22?
Yeah.
Suicide is a permanent fix for a temporary problem. You know what I mean? No matter what it is literally temporary, but that is a permanent fix. So we got to figure out how to deal with that, and understanding how to deal with these stresses is kind of where this conversation started, is how understanding what unhealthy is and what healthy is.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the divide.
For sure.
And it's kind of interesting. We're all three of us are drinking. That's fine, right? We're literally just shit. In all honesty, if we were in a bar, we'd have the same conversation. We'd be having drinks, and it'd be a way to decompress. Like I use the analogy. You got to let that steam out. You got to loosen the pressure, just kind of let it go, right? The drinking's fine, but it's when you're alone and you're just pounding them again and again. That's the unhealthy, and you need to start realizing when you have these coping mechanisms, and it could be women, it could be gambling, but when it starts going in excess, that's the problem.
I think when the intent shifts, like the intent is, hey, I need to cut the edge off. Like, cool, that's a little bit. But when it's like, hey, I need to numb myself.
Yeah, I want to
or
get shit
I need
out
to
so I don't feel
disconnect
or
from
think.
reality. That's
Right.
when you cross over into a different realm.
No,
And
no,
then it's going to go from there. Then it's going to be, I need this to function.
And then I need cocaine and heroin and strippers and everything else.
Yep.
Yes.
And I feel like all three of us have seen people go down that rabbit hole to where it started out something fine. And even I've seen people at the end of that, at the bottom end of that hole. And luckily I've seen people get out of that hole too. But it all started with something simple, like, hey, we're going to go out every Friday night just to decompress. And then it goes further and further down because nobody in that decline was like, what's going on? You good? And that was the culture back then.
and it's funny, and it's funny you say that because when I was supervising, I had a guy, I had to call him into the office, and I said, hey, listen, something's fucked up. Like, you and I, we're not close. We don't know each other that well, but something's off, dude. I've been around the fucking sun a few times now. Something isn't right. I can tell you're not right. What's up? And he was really reluctant to talk to me. So long and short was we got with our boss. So my boss's boss. So it had been his boss's boss, my boss. And lo and behold, his boss was a recovering alcoholic currently in AA. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna let y'all talk. I'm gonna fucking step out.
Yeah, I think
It was literally,
you're not gonna recognize
it. Was literally that switch. Dude called me up, said, dude, I don't think you know what that meant to me. Like, you literally were a person to say, listen, man, I don't know what it is. This isn't about writing you up, getting you. It has nothing to do with that. It's about saying, you're a human. You have a problem. We have to fix it. How can we help you? Let us help you. And literally, that's all it was to turn his life around. And he said, man, that was a huge defining moment. And I take a lot of pride in that because a lot of people just been like, fuck that guy. He's a slacker. He's fucking lazy. But why? That's where I think a lot of people get lost is in what is the why? What is causing this?
Yeah, I think everybody, a lot of people are stressed out about coming forward with anything because of the repercussions. And there's going
It's a
to
stigma.
be, there is, yeah. And there's going to be repercussions. They might vary. You might not be able to do the job that you're doing anymore. You might have to go to a different, area or take a time out or whatever. That's still a negative repercussion, but
is it?
it's not. That's what it
It's
seems
perceptive.
like. It is, yeah. So it's like, oh man, my identity is going to get stolen. And the story I want to share with that is, when I was a lieutenant, there was actually a guy that came forward to the sergeant. He's like, hey, I've been dealing with shit for 20 years, like from the military. I never told my ex-wife. Never told my current wife, never told anybody, but I'm reaching out to you for help because I trust you. And I laugh not because it's funny, I laugh because it's sad. And even that
That's how I deal with sad too.
Yeah. So even that sergeant was like, yeah, caffeine and hate, right? Fuck you.
Right.
Even that sergeant was like, hey, I know you're not my lieutenant, but I don't want to go to my lieutenant because of that. Like, that would have got stopped if I hadn't been there. So that that was one of my most proud things. And luckily he, spoke up, and yeah, he's good today.
That's the thing. That's the difference, because what you're most proud of has nothing to do with anything you accomplished.
No.
It has to do with you helping someone else, which is the basis of all of public service.
That's why we all started, dude.
It is 100% to go out there. I got in originally to help people in the medical field, people that were sick. But then I said, you know what? I'm going to chase bad guys. I'm going to put people in jail. You call
Still
it,
helping people.
You tell people being a bully to the bullies. And that's kind of what I was. I was kind of like, man, you know what? I really, really want to do this to help people. Like, I enjoy that. But it's like when somebody you work with needs help because they have the same stupid monkey suit on as you, that you don't want to help them. Like, it doesn't click for me. It doesn't.
Yeah. And, I've brought up this analogy too, right? Like, if I put a 2000 Buick LeSabre in front of you guys, right? Tinted windows, but poorly tinted windows.
Buddy. We're stopping.
Exactly. You guys know exactly what's inside that car, right? And you know what's going to come out of it.
I don't like Buicks. I got shot by a Buick.
But if I put one of your officers in front of you and I start putting different symptoms on it, how many people listening can diagnose that as this guy needs help? Oh. And that's the shit that we need to be cognizant of, is because you're seeing these people every single day. You're seeing that Buick every single day. You know what's inside of it. So you should know what's inside that person that's in front of you, your brother, your sister. You want to use those terms, and it makes you sound holier than thou. But if you're not reaching out and beginning the conversation saying, hey, what's going on? Or doing what you guys said and like pulling them aside, be like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. That's the important part.
Yeah, I think that starts with self-recognition, right? Because you know you better than anybody else. And when you feel something and you feel like you don't want to, go to somebody with something because of fear or whatever, you know that you're trying to mask that. And it's detectable.
No, you have to have the level of humility to be able to, understand that.
For sure.
It goes back to that self-awareness, for sure. There's the humility and there's self-awareness right in there, because go back to that alpha that we talked about in the very beginning. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm in it to win it. There's nothing wrong with it. But every once in a while, you need to take that self-reflection and go, all right, what's actually going on here? You can't be I know a lot of people, they're involved with a critical incident and they say, I'm good. I have no issues with it. Yeah, it was kind of fucked up and I'm still kind of thinking about it. I know it was a few months ago, but I'm still kind of thinking about it. You need to be able to pretend that nobody's there and say, all right, you know what? That is still affecting me. I need, so it is that, it's that self-awareness. It's that humility that we're basically told, like, don't feel that shit.
No, and I think that's where people are like, hey, look, you don't want to talk to me, fine, but you got to talk to somebody. Like, you need to say, I don't care if it's your fucking your mom, your sister, your brother, a counselor. If it's bothering you, I don't need to know. I don't need the details. Like, I just want you to be okay. Because if you're not okay, you need to get okay. And I don't care how you get there. I don't care what steps you have to take there, but you need to get there. We need to do it for each other. We need to be there for each other. And I think that's where a lot gets lost in translation. And that starts early in the academy. Like you were talking about, Charlie, like people, it's from the beginning. I've never understood the bulletproof mindset, like, that tombstone courage.
Bullshit.
Look, no, and I think it's absolute bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a facade.
I think that, Dave Grossman, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman has some really good ideas about understanding your abilities, your environment, and knowing how to emotionally deal with problems and go head on to deal with this. So
for sure.
I give the example of the shooting down in Texas, Uvalde, Texas. All these people are once again standing around knowing, dude, you should be going to that motherfucker wide open to get in there to save these kids. Like,
bulletproof mindset does exist, I think, but it's in doses.
No, it does.
It's not a full-time gig.
No, to me, it's not a bulletproof mindset. It's just knowing that I have Kevlar on, but it doesn't start rifle rounds. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I need to know that you have a gun, you're armed,
That's
you
just
can shoot and kill me.
courageous. That's what that means.
Yeah, but I stopped a guy on a motorcycle one time, and he was fucking shaking, dude, freaking out. He's like, hey, I got a gun. I was like, cool, me too. Don't pull it out. We won't fucking have a duel.
Yeah, I won't either.
Yeah, like, hey, cool, dude, chill, like, relax, dude. But that's where people, that breakdown in communication. I know we talked about de-escalation before, where ask, tell, make. To me, that is de-escalation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure,
It's
yeah.
taking these steps, and they want to try to turn this into a new, a new buzzword, or try to turn this into a new, a phrase of the day where they say, oh, did they de-escalate the situation?
Mm-hmm.
Some can't get de-escalated.
Right.
Some people need punched.
all virtue
Some people need
signaling
hit.
bullshit.
Some people need shot. Some people need killed. I
Right,
didn't
that's
do that.
just de-escalation at the end of the day.
You know what I mean? I
And-
was
and
perfectly
you're-
happy eating Chick-fil-A before all this.
Right.
Right. And, just to touch on bulletproof mindset real quick, I feel like the idea of having that is the way I interpret it, because, having listened to a lot of his stuff, I feel like the way we become bulletproof in our mind is to recognize the stressors that come in, and then knowing how to be resilient and kind of deflecting it. Like, yes, tombstone courage, I think that's an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
I think when I think of it, it's literally knowing what's going to come in and how am I going to deflect the stuff that's coming in. And
Yeah, dude, I think it has a lot to do with vulnerability.
right.
In that I need help, and that's cool. Like, that's what we need.
No, I mean,
You can be a damn warrior and still need help.
and not
Absolutely.
for nothing. There's plenty of accounts. There's plenty of written accounts from short, conflicts, whether it be like an armed standoff where people are getting shot at, or even just, warfare, for whether trench warfare in World War I or World War II. People have no idea that they had pissed themselves during battle. Like,
Yeah.
there's a very sobering feeling when fucking rounds are coming your way. You know what I mean? Like, there's a very real understanding of how fragile your life is when fucking bullets are skipping off of buildings by you. All of that comes into focus. There's nothing that says you can walk out there and you're just going to be like, the fucking Terminator, sucking up rounds. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you have to understand there's risk to be had, but is the reward worth the risk? And I think that's where people, the delineation between Tombstone's courage and, that bulletproof mind, saying,
It
like,
is a fine line.
yeah, no, I know if I'm good because I'm behind this tree. I got plenty of hard cover as long as he doesn't transition, then I need to fall back somewhere else. But people often confuse the two or overuse the two, which I think the overuse is where you see these people end up getting themselves or others hurt because of foolish actions.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it all goes back to self-awareness. You're not Superman. You're not bulletproof physically.
Right.
But going into that mindset, or going into that situation with the mindset, I see a lot on social media. It's definitely an influencer thing where, they deal with something traumatic and they got to make this big spectacle, I should say. And it pisses me off because one thing is clout chasing, right? Like they're literally like, oh, look at me. I dealt with this, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You did. And it definitely needs to be dealt with in an appropriate way, right? But to go on social media, to go into the public and like, this is the fine line, right? There's a difference between venting and saying, hey, I need help, bitching about it and saying like, oh, it sucks, and then like just clout chasing. And
For sure.
those latter two piss.
You just remind me of a video. There's a little short. I'll have to see if Kyle maybe you can fucking find it and send it to you. It's Family Guy, and him
Yes,
and
yes.
Lois, they're like, hey, look, it's a hospispitable bed where you can take
Yep.
selfies to get likes and shares.
Exactly.
Don't want to talk about it today. Like ... or whatever. That's what.
And
it is.
all the
Like,
comment. Exactly.
get
That's
the fuck
exactly.
out. If you were genuinely having a fucking problem, would you be? I'm feeling so sad today. Fucking frowny face. Fuck
Right.
you. Like,
Oh, the shit I just saw at work. ... And then all the likes come in. Like, dude, stop. Stop.
That's virtue signaling. Like, and I share stories myself personally that affect me. And I think that's different. It's not
Right.
It's not
right.
that elusive.
no, there's some
Bullshit.
there's some definitiveness to it.
Yeah.
Like this is
and
what
substance behind it.
there is
Right.
there's no innuendo or lack. So somebody in my family who will remain nameless is very big for doing that. It'll be,
Crying wolf.
I got to go to the doctor today. Hope I'm going to be okay.
Right,
Oh
and
my
that post
God,
gets
are you gonna
20
be
likes.
okay?
Yep.
Oh
right.
my God.
Tens and tens of likes.
Didn't say that it was a fucking, I had to go to the dentist for a cleaning or whatever. Like,
That
stop.
was really happened. Right?
You know what I mean? Stop. Like, listen, you've really reduced you've taken away the people who genuinely need that. You know what I mean? Like, the people who are out looking for help.
Sharing stories, sharing feelings about substantive issues, not wide open. It's not music lyrics where it's like, hey, these sound good, fit it to your own story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and there's it's a fine line because I posted something the other day where I got on my soapbox and I was like, stop doing this shit, and people started attacking me because I didn't word it properly. But the idea being that I'm all for people reaching out, getting help, venting, all that shit. I'm really good with all that. It's the vague kind of give me some attention.
Attention seeking.
Yeah.
I can't stand, man. Like,
Yeah.
and it is a fine line because I don't want people to listen and be discouraged. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to put this out there.
That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's like,
Right.
do you have kids by chance?
I do not.
Okay.
I have a not quite a stepdaughter.
All right, so I got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. My 3-year-old, tough as fucking nails.
Hellion.
Dude, he's fucking animal. Like, absolute savage, wrecking ball, wide open, doesn't matter.
He wasn't born.
He wasn't born with give a fuck at all. And my 5-year-old, soft, sweet, caring, kind, just very compassionate, loving child, right? So if my 5-year-old falls and skins his knee and he looks around and nobody's there, he's fine. You understand?
Yeah.
But if you see him skin his knee, it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Same type of thing, but for an adult. Like, they're looking for that response from others, where the 3-year-old, dude, he's a walking, talking middle finger, man. He does not care, But that's the difference. And I think that as a parent watching a child, you're fine. Fucking knock it off. Right. But you don't want to kind of say that to an adult because they have the means to not be fine. You kind of want to understand, but you've blurred the line so much, you know what I mean? Where we can't say he and she anymore. Like, we're in a society where we're too worried about hurting someone's feelings.
Don't get me started. Don't get me fucking started.
Get Kyle off on a tangent about that shit.
No, I'm not doing it.
Do it.
Nope.
No, but you know what? I agree completely. I feel like, someone said, I think Kyle said earlier, like, when it gets to crying wolf, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you start saying that shit about every fucking call for service when the big one comes, and the big one's gonna come.
Yeah.
If you're in this job any length of time, then no one's gonna like give a shit when it's the real one. And it's
It's
listen,
the trusting in that person. It boils back down to trust, dude.
right, you're going to start diluting that trust. And that's where, if you are a law enforcement officer or any first responder listening to this, whether it be fire, EMS, dispatch, whatever it is, and I consider dispatch first responders.
Oh, for sure.
So do I, because I started that way. And I love you. by the
I
way.
fucking hate that job. There's no way.
I hate
no
that
way.
job, too.
Absolutely no
I
way.
hate both of those jobs, actually.
But my idea is, like, if you're in those positions, it is important to start out with good coping mechanisms. Having somebody. Now, I did say earlier, therapy isn't for everybody. Some
Right.
people just can't do therapy, and I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine. Have a partner that you trust, a supervisor, a pastor, literally anybody that you trust that you can talk to on a regular basis that'll either listen, give you feedback, or tell you what to do.
No,
I
but
think
you
those
also
are
have to. You also need to understand too, at least for the people listening out there, therapy doesn't have to be professional. You don't have to sit down and talk with somebody.
Correct.
This
What
is
is therapy?
Hey,
what is
time
there?
out. We're doing therapy
This
right
is
now.
exactly
This is-
exactly what I was
yep,
fixing to
yep,
tell you.
yep.
That's what this was for Kyle. And when we first started this up, it was like I told him. I said it feels good. It's therapeutic just to sit here and shoot the shit about this stuff. Like I told him, I'm a big into hunting. Like I love whitetail hunting, whether bow hunting, muzzleload, and doesn't matter. Like to me, that's therapeutic. Alone by myself in the woods doing like just me time doing me. That's very, very, very therapeutic. Where Kyle, you do jiu-jitsu, you work out, like you have all the things that you do. It doesn't necessarily mean counseling, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You have to find what is
Find
healthy
what
for
works.
you. But trial and error. I have no shame in saying I've been to counseling. I've been to therapy. I've done it. It's not for me. I've been to psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever you want to call them, for hiring processes. And they said, like, this stuff will not work for you. Like, you are not the type of person that gains from this, So understanding yourself is important. I think it's also important to understand that what works for you may not work for someone else.
And even if it doesn't work for somebody else, it might be only a piece of your overall solution.
For sure.
Yeah. So you could go to counseling, and if that's all you do, it's still ain't going to work.
No, if you need more than that,
Right. Yeah, getting
I
off
feel
your
like-
chest is cool, but like for me, like I can only speak for what works for me. It's doing hard things. That's what she said. But yeah, not that hard thing. Fuck off.
That's a small hard
Just
thing.
doing difficult
not
things,
fisting.
right? And being a cop was fucking one of those. That was therapeutic for me at one point until it turned not.
And I'll tell you, that was one of the main factors of me leaving law enforcement. Is I used to, and I loved going to work. Like I would leave home to go to work because it was fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're gonna go out and buy dope and chase bad guys and run through the fucking hood, and like I loved it. It was like I truly loved that. Like my
The
wife,
fun
like,
shit is really
hey,
fun.
You know what I mean?
Fucking
It really is. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
awareness.
we're working a wire case. You need to be on call for 24 hours. We're gonna go, Georgia, chasing dope dealers. You're like, fuck yeah! Like it was awesome. Like I
what I
super
signed
small
up for,
percentage. Yeah, but the percentage of what that actually means is so small. Like,
no,
And then when you
it
do all that
consumes your
work
life.
and then the prosecutor drops the
Yeah.
shit, you're like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
you get not only personally involved, like emotionally involved in it, but you
get
put
emotionally
your
invested.
name. You do, yeah. You put your name, you put your reputation, your ethic
Mm-hmm.
behind this entire thing. And a big one that a lot of people will probably resonate with is when you are actually a victim, like Battery Elliot,
right.
and they just no pros, didn't even fucking contact you.
No, they don't care.
What?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't be more emotionally involved in anything in my life other than being a victim.
I still have the 911 recording, like the actual dispatch calls. I ended up arresting a guy for battery, Elio. 7.5 minutes I fought with this guy. 7.5 minutes is a fucking eternity. As a 25-year-old kid on the side of the highway in a different district on a different fucking radio channel waiting for shit to get patched over for the cavalry to arrive. The longest 7.5 minutes of my life. You know what happened to that guy? Nothing. Zero. Like nothing. Zero.
Have you ever gotten a foot pursuit on teletype?
No,
I have.
that was that fun.
Fuck. Didn't know it. Either.
Yeah, right. And then the dispatchers are scrambling to patch teletype and like, we don't know how to do that. We've
I
never
don't
had
know
to
what
do
that
The
that.
means.
problem was, I mean, at least where we were, like, that was where all your new dispatchers was on teletype, because that's the low key shit,
Yeah.
you know. And you're in the mix of it in the hood, you know, for lack of a better term, and you're literally chasing people through, you know, yards with guns flying everywhere. They have zero idea what's going on.
It's like, we're just going to go home for the day.
So terrible. Yeah, no, it sucks for everybody.
Oh, man.
Man, I responded as backup to somebody in a foot pursuit on teletype, and I was like, all I heard was him getting out with somebody and switching over, and I was like, let me start going that way. And sure enough, I put my car into drive, and sure enough, hey, he's in a foot pursuit. Yeah, no shit. I bet he was. Like,
Can we patch that?
like, where was he last going? Like, it was bad. We lost the guy. It was different story for a different time too. But
I think those are the things that like that get you addicted to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there was a positive outcome.
yeah.
But I also think too that
That can turn to shit real quick.
not only they turn to
Oh,
shit,
absolutely.
but it's not those isolated incidences
Those,
where
those
people
are memories, you know, those are your stories.
No, they are. But for people who are dealing with these things emotionally, I think that it may not be that one incident that pushes them over the edge. That just takes up more room in that, you know, in that emotional wastebasket until stuff starts falling over. And I think that's what people often forget, that you go to a DV, you end up punching somebody who did not deserve it by any stretch of the imagination. The administration watches the video. They fucking hang you out to dry. They badmouth you in the media. They tarnish your person name and everything. And they don't realize there's 100 other calls behind this that were just leading up to this. This is a volcano blowing over.
Yeah, I
you know?
can't remember who shared a story with me, and I feel like shit for not remembering, but they said, I don't know why that call bothered me, because there was a favorable outcome. It's like, it wasn't that call that bothered you.
No,
that,
it wasn't.
that was a
Yeah,
symptom.
yeah.
No, it's exactly what it was. It was a
was a
symptom of
symptom.
the other 100 that you have dealt with.
Yeah.
And that was like, your mind went to what if, you know, and that's hard to cope with, man. Especially when you don't understand.
And I think that's where the burnout all comes from.
Fuck
like,
yeah, dude.
burnout
That's where
is
the
not
hero
an
doubt comes
instant.
from.
Yeah. That's exactly where this comes from.
Yeah. It's, you know, I think about my situation, and obviously you guys are familiar with it, but Jason and Pat
Yeah.
were not set alone incidents. You know what I mean? Like, all that built up, and those were just the tipping points.
They were,
And
both of them, both of those things were cascading things that combined and exploded over time.
No, and it's sad. And him and I had a discussion about something similar. I said, you know what's terrible? A good friend of mine, I'll touch back on where I was going in a second. A
We
good friend of
totally
mine
cut you
just
off, and we're sorry, Trevor.
just retired from where Kyle and I worked. And he called me up maybe a month ago and he said, hey, when Jason, you're talking about Jason Rayner, when he was shot and killed, shot and then, you know, later died. He said, did that bother you? Like, did you feel like it was fucked up? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, do you feel like things could have been better? I said, no, absolutely. He said, no. I mean, like after. He said, it seems like nobody cares. He said, yeah, it seems like nobody cares. Like it never happened. I said, no, they do. I said, no offense. I don't think they do. And I said, that's one of the reasons that I left, is that we had an officer involved shooting where somebody died. And about 3 fucking days later, it was back to business as if nothing fucking happened. Mm-hmm. This poor guy got shot, later died, and it's like nothing happened. I said, if you think for a moment that couldn't be you or I, and 3 days later they would just be carrying on, you're out of your fucking mind. And I said, when I came to that realization that I was not important, that it was not important for me, then it wasn't for me anymore. And it's sad because it wasn't just Jason who passed away as a result. I truly think that Patrick his suicide was a result of this. And I had talked to several people who knew him very, very closely and very well, who said that he struggled greatly with dealing with that call. And I felt like they didn't help him. They didn't help him.
Yeah,
there's two things I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second, Kyle. Two things I want to touch on with that. So I literally as I was driving home today, talked to one of my old squad mates, and she was in a foot pursuit on Friday. So today's Sunday. Right. She was in a foot pursuit on Friday. Called for backup. Crickets on the radio. Same agency. Crickets on the radio in a foot pursuit for a violent offender. I don't know what it was for, but so talk about how things just don't change. Secondly, can't remember what the second thing was, but the big thing was literally the same agency, same district, everything as that man called for help. Crickets. And it was like, are you serious? Like, have we learned nothing? When somebody asks for help, the entire fucking city better come running to them. And to me, that feeling of alone, like again, it goes down to what I was taught in the academy, what I was taught in training is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when I made that decision to step aside, to hang it all up, the juice was not worth the squeeze anymore.
No. Yeah, and it
wasn't because there was no support. At least in my opinion,
yeah.
From at least in my experience, rather.
I personally haven't experienced that where you're not worried about your backup coming because I mean, shit. Every time I called for the world showed up. I mean, 7 counties.
I have nothing to say. At least in my experience, the same. Like if I've
seen it, I just haven't experienced it.
No, I hadn't either. And I think I was the watch commander the night that for the county when Jason was shot.
Yeah.
And we showed up where our staging area was the courthouse. And me and the other watch commander, Matt, very, very, very good friend of mine. And matter of fact, Matt trained me, was part of training when I got hired. When I was sergeant, Matt was my.
He trained me as a deputy, which was fucking weird.
Matt was my watch commander when I became a watch commander. He was my partner as a watch commander. When I became a district lieutenant, he was my district lieutenant on the other end of the district. Like him and I were close, super close. And him and I went there when Jason got shot that night, and it was like 500 cops that showed up. Literally, I'm talking. Counties and counties away. I had,
you couldn't go to a street corner without seeing red and blues.
No, FWC showed up, and the guy told me, he said, I've told he was the head of he was a knight for the state. He said, every FWC officer in the state of Florida is coming this way. You tell me where you need them. And we're like, that's how big this event was. You know what I mean? And for something to be so huge one day and then mean nothing the next, I really think hurt a lot of people. I think it really showed where what it meant to them. Like it, Kyle posted on our Facebook the other day that on the fallen officers memorial here in Volusia County has been updated in fucking 6-7 years. There's been several officers that could be added to it. It just goes to show that that's
when they stop caring.
And I mean that in the way, like, and I say this all the time. Do you want to change or do you want to appear to change? Do you want to care or do you want to appear like you care? Do you want to
make it look
this?
good for the cameras?
Exactly. And that's where I think that things fall short. We get up there and we fucking beat our chest and we act like we're going to do this and that and the other. It's grandstanding. Absolutely. But when it comes down to it, people who don't forget are the people whose lives have been affected, like Jason's family. You know what I mean? Like Pat's family, like all these people, they don't forget those things. And I think that's where
just immediate family, dude, like the Blue family, that was there.
No, for sure.
You, Matt, whoever. I mean, countless people I don't even know.
Yep.
Yeah. And I could say from my experience, fourth on, one of the first 5 people on scene, or whatever it was, having sat at Pat's family's kitchen table, having dinner with them, talking to them, you see how things have progressed in the culture. I mean, I can finger point at the agency too, but the culture itself, and you see how nothing has changed. Things aren't tighter. Things aren't, it's damn near embarrassing to those men that gave their lives for something that to them was the most important thing in the world. And it pisses me off. It saddens me. There's so many emotions that are immediately triggered because, I know how important their mission was to them. Mm-hmm. Like literally, Pat would leave briefing every single day saying, let's go put people in jail.
Oh, he's a worker. He was a worker.
He cared nothing more than to make the streets safer. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
And to see their sacrifice seemingly not mean anything to the community or more importantly the agency they serve, that doesn't sit right with me.
No, so I will say on a much lesser scale, and I don't reference the agency we used to work for very often because I'm not here to badmouth. That's not what this is about. This is about just opening up, personal experiences. So working at the sheriff's office in Volusia County, we had the number 2 in command, chief deputy. All right, John Creamer. John was here on a Friday, and he was fucking gone Monday. Mm-hmm. Nobody said a word. Nobody said anything, whether he quit, was fired, what happened. The day the number 2 man in a 500-man agency can be here and gone and nobody talks about it showed me that there is no value in any other employee in the whole entire agency. And that's what didn't sit well with me. The moment that he was here and now gone, it's like dad went out to get cigarettes and mom doesn't talk about it.
I want to
anymore.
get milk, baby.
You know what I mean?
You ain't shit.
You know what I'm saying? So that mindset to me was so toxic. Like it sent a message that you are a name on a board filling a spot.
Yeah.
And if we don't fucking need you, we'll find a different name for that board in that spot.
Whether justified or not.
No.
Let's back up. Whether justified or not.
Rumor mill has it that he was fucking somebody, trying to fuck somebody or whatever. Right. I don't care. I got one rule in life: as long as your happiness doesn't interfere with my happiness. You do you, I'll do me. Don't get in my shit.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is being unsaid, I think was far more toxic for this agency than anything. Far more toxic than just saying John couldn't keep his dick out of A, B, and C. I asked him about it. I told him to stop doing it. He got caught fucking red-handed. We shit-canned him.
Even if you don't share details, it's a why.
Yeah.
Right. So I shared something 2 days ago, and we're airing this I think in November or December. I don't know what it is, but so it's going to be far removed. But I shared something September 23rd, and Kyle and I talked about this. It was from the page Surviving Policing. Mm-hmm. It says, when you leave the job, they will forget about you. No one will be calling for your help. You won't hear your car number squeaking over the radio. Your phone won't be ringing. One day it will just end. Yep. And that goes on both sides of that.
Oh, for sure.
So you will forget, they will forget, and the one's future. And that's what the second point was. I finally remembered it. Literally, the next FTO class after Jason got hurt had no idea who he was.
How fucking
and it was less than a month. So he was still in the hospital. They're like, "Oh yeah, I don't really know him, but I'm here for his end of watch." I was like, "Bro, get the fuck out of here!"
It's just
I was just that the way they worded it just rubbed me the way wrong way.
There is a machine aspect of it, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
And people, from my experience, people remember feeling, and if they didn't have any emotional connection to something, it's easy to forget.
You need to codify it in a meaningful way to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it's sick, dude. It's people who should remember don't, but there are those like us who do, and that's what's important.
No, and I think also too, this individual I'm not going to mention because I have far more respect for him than I do any of these other people he spoke to. He recently passed away, and Kyle and I were talking that there's people who I think will be conflicted about attending this gentleman's funeral because he fucking hated them with a passion, but they will feel obligated because of their position. And how disgusting of a human being do you have to be to feel obligated to attend a funeral that to a person who loathed you as a human,
like verbally,
or fucking absolutely just hated you. And I think that's what happens is that we in administration, they put themselves in a different category than who you really are. You know what I mean? And one of the things I do now, I work really closely with a lot of police agencies across the state of Florida, and I can tell you some of these smaller backwoods, if you will, backwards 50-man departments, 20-man departments are the close-knit brotherhood of law enforcement that you would think it would be
by nature.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you defend somebody when they do something indefensible, but what I am saying is that when you need to be there for somebody, John and Jeff, John's getting a divorce, fucking Jeff comes over with the trailer, helps move. You know what I mean? Like you help your brother in need.
So social media, I mean, it is a blessing and a curse. You know, and a lot of us have been sucked into it, except for Nick.
Yeah, fuck that shit. I don't do that.
But it's kind of like that. Like, you know, if you have 100,000 followers, do you really know those 100,000 followers, or do you know the 20 that you deal with and, you know, converse with on a daily basis? I think that is what's so important about small agencies. Like, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle in big places.
No, it is. And I think obviously if you were NYPD and you have, 30,000
You're
officers,
a number.
you have, and I don't mean that
Right,
negative,
but
you
I think
have to be.
It should.
I feel like in NYPD, that's broken down into individual precincts.
You would have
which
to
is
be.
like different departments.
Yeah, departments. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, and I would think so, but like I said, and I don't fucking care, is Daytona Beach Police Department's where Jason Rayner was at when he was shot and killed on, or shot rather.
Well, there's only 2 districts. Mm-hmm. 2.
Yeah, East and West.
You know.
You know what I mean? So
and it's forgotten that quickly.
And it is, and it's fucking terrible. It's heartbreaking to me because I got some good friends that still work there and people that have been really, really disheartened by this, and they understand that you're just a number. You don't mean anything, and no matter what you do, it doesn't make a difference. No matter how hard you try, it doesn't matter. And I think that message is really hitting home with law enforcement specifically, not just first responders in general, but law enforcement, because you can see the retention, the retirement, the recruitment, the early people that are just leaving. Like, I left and I'll figure something else out. Like, it got to the point where I was so dissatisfied and disgusted with what I was doing and the way that we were just dismissive of individuals that it shouldn't have been that way, and I was just like, you know what, it's a good time for me to go. It's a really good time for me to get out and enjoy, what I'm 35, I was 35 at the time, I'm 36 now, just enjoy my life, and I think that too many people, they feel as though they have to, like, this is their identity. You can't let this be your identity.
That's so important. I feel like so many of us, and I had this conversation a couple times, like, I really feel like the whole George Floyd thing really fucked things up in a lot of ways, but it made guys like you, the 3 of us, take good at our jobs, good to the department, good to the communities we work for. We started taking a defensive act, right? Like, we're not this guy. We are not the guy on the news. So we started embracing the thin blue line mentality because we wanted to, like, perpetuate, like, no, we're not this, right? So then the thin blue line, the police mentality became our personality. Not us in this 3, but I'm just saying in the career field as a whole.
Yeah.
And so we started bearing that weight on our shoulders, and we were like, no, I am going to be the poster boy for law enforcement. So you start doing that, you start putting yourself out in front. So you start dealing with all the bullshit that's been getting thrown at you. And until guys like the 3 of us, literally the 3 of us, start going, hold on a second. Why am I the one getting all this shit thrown at me? Mm-hmm. This is not, and that, I think that's what happened. I feel like things like Mike Brown, George Floyd all happen. The shit started getting thrown. We were proud of what we were doing.
Don't loot. Sorry.
So no, you're good.
Throwing it back old school.
So you stood up and you're like, no, that's not me, because you were proud of what you signed up to do. Mm-hmm. But after a while, you went, hold on a second. Like, I'm proud of what I signed up to do, but this is getting ridiculous. And that's where the whole burnout and everything started eating at you. And now here we are, 3 people out of the job. And honestly, probably a job that had all this bullshit that we've been talking about hadn't happened, we'd still be in it. We'd still be rocking and rolling, and who knows where we would have been.
Oh yeah. So I'll give you an example. So, and I'll tell you when you can really determine if there's something wrong with the mindset of law enforcement today, or at least whenever you have internal toxicity within a department. So incident unfolded. Details are really insignificant. Doesn't matter. Long story short, it was like the icing on the cake. Like, it was the proverbial end of the road for me. I said, you know what, fuck this shit, I'm out, right? So I was having lunch with a couple friends of mine at lunch one day, and he said, dude, you got the biggest fucking balls I ever met. I said, why is that? He said, because they said they're going to use you as their punching bag like they do everybody. And you said, fuck you, no, not today. And you left. He said, that's it. Like, you're not going to fucking demote me. You're not going to transfer me. You're not going to shame me. You're not going to try to use me as an example. He said, fuck you, dude. There's a million other jobs in the world. I just fucking straight up left. He said, that is so ballsy for you to do that. I'm thinking to myself, is it really though? Like, is that really all that unfair? Where
it's not common. That's
you know
the
what I mean?
thing.
No, the problem is not a common, but it shouldn't be. So if you're a fucking accountant and you're not being appreciated, you leave Bob's accountant firm and you go somewhere.
Yep,
You know what I
yep.
mean? Like if you're a plumber and your boss is a dick, you're like, no, fuck this guy. I make him a pile of money.
Well,
I'll do myself.
That backs into the whole thing we've talked about at length before with the false illusions of retirement. It's like, oh, we have you trapped because you're in our program, for a retirement. But Charlie, to your point, I think what really has happened is there's been a lot of shit forever, right? That didn't start with Mike Brown, George Floyd. I mean, whatever. Go back as far as you want in time. What changed, I think, was the amount of people willing to deal with the bullshit and the acceptance of it. Because there's a lot of people, as we all know, they're like, nope, hands-off approach, right? Which people like us were like, nope, we're still what we signed up for.
And that was part of my demise is that I'm here to put bad guys in jail.
There's still the same amount of shit, but only a handful of people are carrying that load now.
The problem is the people that were bending their will, like, okay, well, we're not going to do this. And I give the example of there's a low-income, impoverished area that over here on the west side of the county where Kyle and I used to work in. Every fucking homicide leads back to this area. All the fucking drugs lead back to this area. All the stolen properties sold to the fucking drug dealer. All of the problems come from this area. So you go in there, you fucking hit it. You hit it, you hit it, you hit it. You put bad guys in jail. You're chasing cars. You're flattening tires. You're putting fucking people in jail. You're making a difference. All of a sudden, why are you targeting us? Because this is where the fucking crime is.
Yep.
I don't create the crime. I follow the crime
I'm
dots.
Not chasing a race.
And the problem is these pussy fucking administrations, like the city that runs that area. Well, we didn't really tell them to go over here. Fuck you, you animals. Stop acting like savages. We won't have to come in here and uproot your lifestyle. Act like you have some decency. Stop breaking the law and do what you're fucking supposed to do. And we won't do it because you know where we don't have it? The other side of fucking town. And we have just as many police over there doing just as many traffic stops. But the problem is they're not fleeing. They don't have drugs. They don't have warrants. Their cars are registered. Their licenses are good. They don't have stolen property. They're not selling dope. They're not fucking shooting at it. Like all of the bad shit that cops deal with 90% of the time, and I give that 10% because there are shitty fucking cops out there. There's people that are crooked. But these motherfuckers,
I don't know if it's 10%, but yes.
Either way, I don't give a fuck what the statistic is. My point is there are people that just because you're flapping your fucking gums, making all the racket, doesn't mean you should get to bend your will. But these politicians do. They would never let me be a police chief anywhere because during my fucking interview, you know what I would tell them? If you want somebody to do what this council wants, hire somebody else. If you want somebody to put bad guys in jail and make sure you're fucking safe in your bed at night, you hire me because I want fucking people that's going to go out there, serve this community, make sure you're safe. They're going to do it diligently. They're going to do it with respect. But at the end of the day, we ain't here to fucking, we're not here about your feelings. We're here about fucking enforcing the law.
Yeah, politics are always going to be involved. And I don't know a better solution, right? Like even people say like, oh, well, your police chief isn't elected official. Fuck yes, they are.
Yeah, he is. He's elected by the council. However you look at it, the city council elects him.
Yeah, his name ain't on the ballot, but or her, whatever. But they're elected, and there is that political component to law enforcement, which shouldn't be. I don't know a way that you can deviate from that and make it not. You're always going to have it.
No, but how many times have you had we got to go here because the mayor's sister's out of town?
100%.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, or his mom's had speeders on the street. And she lives on a street with two houses, hers and someone. Like, this is a waste of resources.
Yeah. Oh, they're speeding down the street, and you find out, like, obviously, it's only from that
right.
house.
Whose street is it?
Yeah. So, I call him a friend of mine. I would like to think him and I are friends. He was actually my boss when I got promoted, and then he was my boss when I got promoted again. And he told me, he said, Nick, I'll be honest with you. You are the best employee, but you are the fucking worst employee I've ever had. You question everything. You do whatever you think is right. You're not going to fucking do whatever I tell you unless I clarify why it's being done. You have to know what you're doing is going to align with your values, and it's very difficult to manage you. I said, well, I appreciate that. At least you know where I stand. Like, I'm not a yes man. You know what I mean?
See, my response would have been, cool, why is that a problem?
Yeah. But, you know what I mean? But But at the end of the day, like I get, he's like, but he's like, I appreciate that, but you're like the most difficult person to manage because of that. But
Hey,
because
difficult's cool.
no, but I wouldn't also let him shit on my people.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's again part of the reasons I left is if people are so willing to shit on your men, then are they really your men?
No, because you're next.
You know what I mean? That's exactly what it was. You know what I mean? If we can't shit on them, we'll shit on you.
Right.
Shit on me all you want,
And if
motherfucker.
you're going to back them up, so that means you take the heat. You
Yep.
stepped into the pilot seat,
And I didn't mind doing it, but neither here nor there. But either way, like I said, I think where we really ventured off at the point, but understanding how to deal with all of the bullshit that we've been talking about, understanding how to deal with all of that is what's very, very difficult for some people. They do it in unhealthy ways, whether it's excessive drinking, gambling. I even use it. The thing of poor sleeping habits, poor eating habits,
And
not
they're
exercising.
all coinciding,
No,
right?
they absolutely are. They absolutely
because
are.
if you're not eating or drinking or whatever right, you're not going to sleep right. If let's say like one of my addictions, I'll be flat out honest, was working overtime. I loved working overtime, loving that money.
That was me, buddy.
Yeah, so you do that, and then home suffers, your sleep suffers, all those things. It's all cyclical. It all ties in together. And you're right. If you're not taking care of each other, and going back way back, I feel like it was like a half hour ago or an hour ago that we were talking about it. But yes, talking is one thing. Physical activity is another thing. Like you guys were talking about things that kind of calm you down, or your version of therapy. Like mowing the lawn to me is just like going back and forth on the push mower is enough to that's all. The only
terrible.
thing.
No,
It's not.
I'll
Dude,
tell you
I got
exactly why. I'm going to nerd out for you in a second, but go
on a
ahead.
push
but-
mower.
Oh, real bad. Yep.
Oh god.
But to me, just two hands pushing, I can't touch my phone. I can't do anything. That is all I'm focusing on. To me, that's like a meditation almost, to where it just calms me down. All right,
So-
go nerd out.
Yeah, total fucking nerd out. We're changing a whole podcast to nerd out based on this. Right?
Go.
So it doesn't roll off the tongue unless you've been there, but EMDR therapy, which is basically, if you look it up, is a back and forth thing, a repetitive motion back and forth. It could be tossing, a ball or fidget spinners or whatever, right? And mowing the lawn in those repetitive back and forth motions mimics that. And for me, it sounds stupid, but just like you're saying, I could throw a podcast in there, back and forth, back and forth. That's why people pace, right? And
Even crocheting is one of them, because it's the same motion again and
Yeah.
again and again.
that repetitive back and forth, like literally tossing a stress ball between your hands, it mimics the exact same thing, and not Jay Owen.
No, I was air banging.
No,
You couldn't tell.
I mean,
That's
that
all I
could-
got from movement, by
that
the
could
way.
be too. I haven't brought that up with my therapist yet, but that could definitely
We
be
keep
true.
it down, right? Is there was a guy or girl?
Yes.
Yes.
It's 2022, man. It could be anything.
I'm not losing that demographic.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. You want to fuck your therapist? That's fine.
These are the true stories.
That's it.
No, but I feel like you're absolutely right. It's just, to me, it takes all the guesswork out of life when I'm when I'm mowing the lawn, because I'm literally just going back and forth, no surprises. That's why some people, this is true, this is a scientific fact. That's why some people, especially people that deal with anxiety and depression, they will gravitate towards TV or music that they used to watch when they were a kid. That's why Friends is so big,
Yep.
is because they would watch it back in the 90s when it was big, because there's no surprises. You know how the show's going to end. They can just relax. Literally,
Yeah.
so when you put on the new show on Netflix, you never know what's going to happen. But Friends, you know exactly what's going to happen at the end of that 30 minutes, and it's relaxing to people. Same thing with mowing the lawn or things like that. There's no surprise outcomes, and your brain basically goes numb. It shuts off for a second, and that's why when you shower, you have your best ideas, because you're doing repetitive motion stuff. You know what's going on, so your brain actually has time to relax and do things it's supposed to do, think. And so, I find that the simple physical activity, it's not as difficult or complicated like BJJ or going to work out, which is important too.
Yes.
But those simple physical activities, they have a very important therapeutic method to them as well.
You know,
For some people, again, other people that wouldn't work for them, but for some people it is.
I
It does.
call that mindless entertainment.
Yeah.
And it is necessary. My wife hates it. Like, my mindless entertainment is putting on the TV and not even watching a football game, just having some old, golf
Whatever.
show going, some old dad shit, right? And just having it on, and it's in the background because I'm
Yep.
playing on my phone or on the computer,
You know
or
what's
whatever
funny?
the case
You guys
is.
bring all this up, and I think about this. Like I tell you, I enjoy deer hunting, but that's not it. But you know where I find the most relaxation? It's going to sound weird. Like, I'm an individual where I love being super stressed. Like, I love 1,000 things to do. 100 things on my calendar, busy. I enjoy the okay, I'm done for the day. That to me is addicting. Like, where some people like the decompression,
That's
the
a dopamine hit,
the
yeah.
lag. To me, it's the constant grind, the go. I am addicted, I think, as far as stress release wise, is that end of the day where it's like, all right, I got everything
feel
done.
accomplished.
It does. And I
That's
know,
what
so
physical
like your
activity
paper,
does, right?
I literally every day, just like I did when I was at work, I write down everything I do on a piece of paper, even if it's
That's
check
dangerous.
email, call so-and-so, pick up kids from, I do it and I check it off as I go. Like, I love
I'm a
having that
checklist
organization,
person.
and that's a stress reliever for me, is the finality of something. I
Right,
don't-
and that's why some people really love to-do lists.
Yeah.
Because when they check things off, it's
Yep.
just like,
If
I
it
don't like
wasn't for
vacations.
lists,
I can't vacation. I can't relax. I'm not a relaxer.
No, if it wasn't for lists, I would never have even thought about doing 75 hard.
what
But it
about
was-
like, you said like you're not a relaxer,
Mm-hmm.
but what if, like, let's say you go on vacation, you have an itinerary for everything you're going to do, right? So that way when you do it, it's like, man, I accomplished something.
No,
We're good with
see,
that.
No, that seems obligatory.
So to me, we don't do vacations. My family, we don't. So, and I know it sounds strange, but if we were, they're like 2-day vacation, 3-day. Like, I'm a mission oriented, objective checking off. Like, we have to get this done because
Right.
everything that it's not a negative thing, but I'm very business oriented, even in my personal life, and I
So
tell
is that because even though with the checklist, those things aren't productive
It's
for your mission?
Is exactly in my mission in life. So my end goal, my purpose every day is to be better personally, professionally, or financially. And everything about a vacation or a relaxation is the opposite of those three
It's
goals.
a pause.
They are a hindrance of me furthering myself. And my wife, she's good. Like, she can relax. She can do it. She can go sit at the beach. I would rather sit bare ass and fire ants than go sit on the beach. Like, it is the most mundane, boring, pointless thing I've ever done in my life.
That's
Now,
what a lot of people think about fishing.
you know what I mean? Like, see, you know what I mean? Like,
True,
to me,
fair,
if-
or golf, or
yeah,
whatever,
golf.
all sports that I do. Like, but to me, I'm so focused on doing, like, no matter what it is,
Something.
I feel like
You have to, yeah.
I want to be better than the next person. Like, I don't care if it's jerking off. Like, I feel like I can jerk you off better than you can. You've been doing it for 35 years. Like, I just want to
pay
be
you.
better. Like, but that's a focus of me, like, where I'm just so focused on being better financially, personally,
So-
professionally, spiritually,
That's-
emotionally.
Yeah,
I'm not jerking you off either, by the way, if you ask.
No, you will.
Unless you say please.
Well, not only that, they're appropriate amount of money.
There, I'll do anything
But
for a
you know,
minute.
I do want to. I want to point out though, it's an interesting juxtaposition because the three of us sitting here having this conversation, and I want to point this out to people listening. We are three completely different individuals. Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes.
Math and whiskey doesn't work. So, three individuals, three completely different coping mechanisms, lifestyles, everything, to prove that one does not work for the others and
100%.
one is not the set end goal. Like the way he just described, not for me.
Yeah.
It may be for Kyle, it may be, but it doesn't matter. Like there's no rhyme or reason. You find what works and you go for it. Or maybe it's a mix of all three of our lifestyles, and that's your thing. And I feel like that's so important because some people will listen to it and be like, man, if I don't live life the way that Kyle's doing it or the way
Right.
10A's doing it
Yeah.
or whatever, then I'm doing it wrong. No, that's not how it works.
do what's right for you.
Right, or people listen to Joe Rogan or Jocko and they go, I have to do this. No, you don't. You find what works for you and then you adopt it to your life.
That's hard. That's really hard. And I struggled with that for a long time myself, finding what worked for me, because I kept following people and I'm like, I've got to follow their plan. Like, they have a plan, they have a checklist, like we just went over, right? And it's like, well, fuck, that didn't work for me. I'm broken. And no, I just had to find a different path.
So, on a closely related yet oddly different note, financial planning, right?
Same thing.
So
it's
Kyle for years has been a very, very big believer in Dave Ramsey's program and so on and so forth. And I remember him and I having this discussion. I'm talking about fucking 8-10 years ago,
at least.
And I told Kyle, like, all the stuff, you got to do this. I said, I appreciate that, Kyle. But if I follow this, if I have $20 fucking over at the end of the month, that's all there is. There's no way I'm investing and saving. Like, your situation is different from my situation. Like, your circumstances in your world and your bills and your life is different than mine. I think that's what people need to realize, that you take what's good and what works from you from whatever it is. Like you said, even like with any of these, anything, whether it's TV or podcast or music, you take what works from you and you take the best of it and you apply it to your life. If you getting anything from our show or your show, you take the best of what makes you better and that's what you keep. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean everything else is wrong.
Picking up a nugget, right? Like, hey, damn, this one's not going to fit for me. Throw it out. Cool. See the next one, that one works, put it in your toolbox.
That's it.
And then you kind of conglomerate and build your own product at the end of the day,
And I think that's one thing that I've been successful doing, at least in a relationship wise, like with my wife. Her and I, if we have a problem, like this is literally what we do. We sit down at a table, the kids go to my mom's, her mom's, wherever, and we talk. Like I told her years ago when we first got together, this is a business. The business we're in is love.
Right.
If we can't talk like a board meeting, we can't talk through our problems, screaming, arguing, fighting, slamming the door, not talking, leaving in silence, not talking to each other before we go to bed. That's unproductive. So if we want to be productive in this relationship, this is what works for us. You know what I mean? Where some people are better off with a scream, fight, anger, bang. We're back to normal. But for us, I think that's what was work.
Fucking anger bang.
Yeah, well, you got to work it in. I think that was our word of the day, right? That one is. You fight just anyways.
There's a Bruce Lee quote. I've said it a couple times. I'm going to add
Tell me he says anger bang.
He does not. He says
good reason he's dead.
He says, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is uniquely your own.
That's right.
And so that's the anger bang, right?
I assume that's what he meant.
Yeah, that's what he meant.
Quote.
I mean, I think that everything we're talking about, though, kind of goes off that principle, is like, what's going to work for one of you is not going to work for the others. And I think that's the important thing. And that's when you think about the paramilitary organization, that's what's kind of bred out of you in the academy, is like the individuality.
There's no uniformity. Like how can you be okay fishing for your release when I do you got to realize you got to be sympathetic to somebody else's plight and how they deal with things.
To relate this to first responder stuff, when I was an FTO and I was kind of known as, like, I hated it because I was the only person who really documented it at the time. Like, hey, this person is like, my mom's a nice lady, but she's not a cop.
Yeah.
That's this person. It sucks, but even those people, I would talk to them and I said, hey, have you ever been in a relationship before? Yeah, we broke up or whatever happened. I was like, that one wasn't for you. That doesn't mean policing's not for you. Here might not be for you at this
or
time.
right now.
And they've gone on, dude, I've got people like that are captains and police chiefs and everything else. So, like, I kind of want to iterate that even if you're at a place and you don't like it, the grass could be greener a little bit on the other side. It is a relationship.
For sure.
And I think people lose sight of that because it's like, hey, these people gave me a chance and they feel committed and, beholden to. And I'm like, no.
not to steal your thunder too, but I've also seen you go through the McDonald's drive-through and get an application for a trainee too.
I have done that. It's relative.
I do remember that when we were working one night.
It's a sliding scale, man.
It is relative. That has actually happened. It was a
You suck.
Burger
Get
King,
better.
actually. But they were paying the fucking same as he was making. So
Yeah, no, this is true. This is definitely fucking true.
that definitely happened.
No, yeah, I remember that clear as fucking day. But no, we have to be there better for each other, Charlie. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, we have to understand the bigger impact that these jobs take on people. Police, fire, EMS, nursing, all of these things that have a huge influence on their mental state, and that's one thing that Kyle and I talk about is not even on the show, but just in general, like how your mental health is so important in understanding how your occupation can influence that. And do not let your job ruin your mental health. If you're in a position, whether it's a job, an occupation, or a career, and it is unhealthy for you,
Bye.
it's not worth it, man. You got to do something to be healthy,
Yeah, I agree completely, guys. I think we really touched on a lot of points here that a lot of people probably aren't comfortable bringing up in public, and I really hope
And they should be.
that I agree. I really hope that this kind of
I'm not saying at a
broke
briefing
down-
table on your first day of FTO telling your
no,
policies
no,
wrong,
then
but-
you're going to be out in the parking lot for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But definitely, it's important to start bringing up and start keeping in your mind as you progress through your career. And if you are out of FTO, and even if you're in, but, start bringing these conversations up in an appropriate way. I think that's important.
Yeah, and find those people that you can do that, even if you don't feel comfortable. Like there is that trust. Like, hey, at the end of the day, like you as a person are the most important person in your life.
Oh, for
Right.
sure.
So
Absolutely.
your job, cool, dude. And especially like in public service, like you're gonna be making just about minimum wage the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Unless you live in like New York or California, they get paid pretty okay.
well,
but
I
then
don't
you-
want to
you
pay
gotta-
their shit either. So I mean,
Right.
it's relative. We're back
Yeah,
to
cost of
the
living
sliding
adjustment,
scale.
right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But well, Charlie, thank you coming on for today. I
Yeah,
definitely
for sure.
appreciate it. So
Before
if
we,
you want to plug your show, we're obviously gonna plug yours on ours. We're not gonna tell you about it, but we'll definitely do it afterwards.
Absolutely. Before we do, though, I was going to run you guys through my last minute questions if you guys are cool with it.
Go.
Do we
These
have
are
that?
this is
that
the
hot
only
chip challenge. Is that what we're doing?
something like
Sounds
that.
terrible.
Yeah. No, this is something brand new that I started doing this year. It's called the Mental Minute, and I got rid of the timer though because these questions take a little longer. So I'm going to run through them real quick. All right, here we go. What's the best book you've read recently?
Nick doesn't read.
I don't read. Go.
Okay.
So mine actually is Own Your Past, Change Your Future by John Deloney, who's a doctor of psychology, who is actually, he's a son of a Houston homicide cop and big on social media. He works actually for Dave Ramsey, and it's not why I follow him necessarily because I've been following Dave Ramsey for a long time, but his big push is on mental health, especially for first responders in trauma situations. And it's kind of that accepting, hey, I did go to this damn call, and hey, it did affect me. How am I going to navigate that? And it kind of summarizes that on like everything we're talking about, but his own way and stories and things like that. So that's been impactful on me recently. How about yourself?
The book that I'm currently working through is called Hardcore Zen. It's written by, I want to say, Brad Warner. He's a former punk rocker from the Midwest. Then he moved to Tokyo and to like pursue some other things. And he became a ordained Buddhist monk. And it's been very interesting. I'm still working through that. And the one right before that was Sovereignty by Ryan Mickler. That book I've been recommending to everybody that I come across because as somebody who's trying to figure out this whole life thing and where I want to be throughout society and life, that really kind of gave me an idea of where I should be as far as like holding yourself accountable, kind of moving through life, how you want to be with your family, your friends, and beyond that. And really sovereignty, like literally answering to yourself, but also making sure the world around you is a good place. So I would recommend both books. I mean, I'm still finishing the one, but Sovereignty is definitely amazing. Next question I got for you guys is, what is something you do to ground yourself?
This.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I'm a very solitudinal person. I don't have any friends. I don't do any social activities. I don't do much outside of my family circle, and it's just by personal choice because I'm okay being me. This is something that I do to keep grounded with who I am on a different front. Like I have my family. Like I could isolate just myself and my family, like the mountain man, you know what I mean? You see on TV, like big beard out there in the middle of nowhere. I'm okay with that. I could be that. But this keeps me grounded with a different part of myself that I don't get to do often enough. So I would definitely do, I say this, just show talking.
That's what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talking out loud is important. Even if you're talking in the damn mirror, your words matter, what you say matters for sure. For me, yeah, I mean, just being authentic. Like, hey, you're going to get judged. Fucking send it.
Okay.
Full send, dude.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, a meme or just do what makes you feel good.
Yeah, and I think the I don't want to say the fine line, but the difference is you're not doing it intentionally to hurt someone's feelings, but if you do, fuck them.
That's their problem, not mine.
Yeah, you do you, I'll do me.
Yeah. If I wanted to hurt your feelings, I put your name on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Just by kind of speaking out loud, regardless of who it's to, it's kind of like auto-validating what you're saying.
For sure.
You know, kind of
Yeah,
just getting that out there.
and I mean, there is that aspect of it, like us three doing what we do now, at least in part and for fun, is getting the message out, like expressing your feelings. And we've had everybody, all three of us have had feedback like, you're not alone. So just be authentic, man. I mean,
You'd be surprised how many people are like, hey, I like what you're doing. I just can't say shit because I still work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But for me, it's doing difficult things. This is difficult. Talking about shit. I mean, if I'm being honest, talking about mental health and talking about everything else and your life stories, trials, tribulations, or whatever, that's hard. Most people don't want to.
No.
You know, or have their shit in the light because they're like, oh, damn, you know, they're going to get exposed or whatever. So doing that for me and the physical part of it, like there's two different things. Stretching and growing the muscle for the mental health stuff and the physical stuff at the same time. And I'm just lucky that they're, married.
Thank you so much for your time. I really think we covered a lot of bases and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yes, I'll let you guys kind of sign off your guys first and then I'll say my adieu after that.
Go, Kyle.
No, you go ahead.
All right. Kyle still sucks from us here at the Hero Out podcast. I'm Nick. It comes from me shitty ass Kyle who don't want to sign us out of here. Charlie, thank you very much for coming on today. For everybody out there, y'all be safe.
Thanks for listening to the Heroed Out podcast. For the latest news and episodes, visit us at heroedout.com or on social media. Stay safe out there, heroes.